Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're listening, you probably want to get a quick, solid understanding of contemporary art. And today we're zoning in on a really compelling Nigerian artist, Ade Odunfa.
That's right. We've looked through his bio and other materials to sort of pull out the key stuff.
Yeah, the goal is to give you a shortcut, understand his journey, his style, why he matters in the art world.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that blend he achieves. It's traditional Nigerian culture meets contemporary practice.
Exactly. It hooks you right in. So let's dive into how he actually does that.
Okay, well, first off, you notice he really places himself at this intersection, tradition and the now.
He's Nigerian, but living in Houston, Texas these days.
Correct. And his work covers a lot of ground painting, sculpture, even carnival and public art.
That range itself says something, doesn't it? He's not sticking to one narrow lane.
Not at all. It suggests a mind that's constantly exploring, pushing boundaries.
And his education must have played a big part in that.
Yeah.
Amadou Bello University, right? BFA in painting back in '98.
Absolutely pivotal. That time in Zaria, Nigeria, wasn't just about learning technique. It laid the groundwork for his whole artistic language.
You can really see how that Nigerian context, that academic background, informs the way he creates today.
Yeah, I mean, think about how artists find their voice. That early training is like learning the grammar, you know? At ABU, he would have soaked up all sorts of influences, Nigerian traditions, international art movements. It gave him the toolkit he needed to innovate later on.
And those innovations, they're quite something. Like using acrylic paint on lace and other materials you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah, that's a signature move, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not just for show either. It feels deeply connected to the meaning.
So the lace, what's the thinking there, do you think?
Well, lace often carries connotations of delicate craft, maybe even Western tradition sometime.
Right.
So using it as a canvas for acrylics, which are more modern, creates this really interesting tension, a dialogue between cultures, maybe.
Or maybe reinterpreting something traditional in a new way.
Exactly. Or even the contrast, fragile lace, durable acrylic. It could speak to how traditions themselves change, you know?
That makes sense. And then there's the Durbar Festival influence. That seems huge in his work.
Oh, definitely. The equestrian scenes, the horses, they come directly from the Durbar Festival in northern Nigeria.
And they aren't just pretty pictures of horses, are they? They feel symbolic.
Totally. They're packed with energy, power, heritage. You almost feel the motion.
Like you can hear the drums.
Precisely. The Durbar is visually spectacular, culturally deep. So using it in his art isn't just documentation.
It's metaphor.
Right. The horses, the riders, they become symbols of strength, history moving forward. It asks, how does this ancient tradition fit into Nigeria today? His art explores that.
Okay, so to really get a handle on his impact, we need to look at where people see his work. Exhibitions are key. That 2014 solo show, over a decade collection, at Terra Culture in Lagos. Sounds like a big one.
Absolutely. A solo show like that lets an artist lay out their story, show how their ideas and style have evolved. For anyone trying to understand Odunfa quickly, that exhibition would have been a major insight.
You'd see the progression.
Yeah, you'd likely see shifts, developments in his focus, maybe technique, really cementing his place in the Lagos art scene.
And then, just 2 years later, 2016, he led a group show. Faces and Phases, same place, Terra Culture.
Which is interesting because leading a group show points to influence, right? And maybe a desire to foster community.
The title itself, Faces and Phases, suggests growth, mentorship, themes that seem important to him.
Exactly. And the bio lists quite a few other group shows too, Abuja, Accra, and Ghana.
So he's been active across the region, part of a wider conversation.
Definitely engaged.
Let's talk about those initiatives he started. Colors of Hope and Faces and Phases. These sound like more than just his own art.
Yeah, they show a commitment to the whole art ecosystem. Colors of Hope seems focused on giving emerging artists a platform, helping them get started.
Crucial support.
Absolutely. And Faces and Phases, with its focus on collaboration, especially cross-cultural, and documenting artists' journeys, it reflects that idea of connection, shared learning.
Makes you think about how these things actually shape the future of Nigerian art.
It's a direct investment in it, and that connects to his mentorship work too, right? Workshops, discussions.
Yeah, as I mentioned, he does those regularly, so he's not just creating in isolation. He's teaching, inspiring.
Trying to bridge gaps, share knowledge. That's vital for any art scene to thrive, isn't it?
Totally. passing the torch, keeping things dynamic.
And his own work has certainly gotten recognition, awards, accolades.
Right, the bio mentions a few. The Medium Pastel exhibition in '07, where his pastel work stood out.
Shows his versatility.
And the Guinness Art Award in 2004, the Xerox National Art Competition back in 2000.
These aren't just pats on the back, they're markers. They show consistent recognition from peers, from institutions over time.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From galleries to, well, the street. Public art. That seems like a major part of his practice.
A very visible part, designing floats for the Lagos Carnival, for example. 5 years straight, 2010 to 2015.
Wow, that's a commitment. And reaching a huge, diverse audience.
Exactly. Carnival art is different. It demands not just creativity, but also logistics, connecting with the public in a really immediate celebratory way.
And then the big installations. Permanent fixtures in the city. Like the Eja Nla sculptures.
The big fish.
In Yoruba, yeah. One was in Eja, another in Oworonchoki. Directly speaks to Lagos and its connection to water. Right?
Your instantly recognizable symbol for Lagos. It's interesting that the first one, the big stainless steel one at Lekki Roundabout, was decommissioned.
But there's a current one in Oworonchoki, also stainless steel, curated by Terraculture.
Suggests the idea was powerful enough to recreate. Maybe the new one uses materials better suited for the long haul in that environment. Public art has to be tough.
True. Then there's football, forever at a stadium, tapping into that national passion.
Teslim Balogun Stadium. Smart connection.
And fishing in the sky at Port Harcourt Airport. That sounds massive, over 30,000 square
A
feet.
huge scale. Imagine seeing that in the departure lounge. Metal, wood, netting. It creates this immersive river scene.
Talk about making an impression on travelers. A powerful introduction or farewell to Nigeria's art.
Curated by Space Finish, that one. They also curated the flying loom at Lagos International Airport.
Right, the 270-foot airplanes piece. That's decommissioned now, too, apparently. Shame we don't have more on its meaning. Sounds really striking, though.
It does. And another one curated by Terraculture is from Ibute in Ikeja.
Meaning from the coast. 42 feet high, with 8 huge indigenous-style canoes made of fiberglass.
Again, directly referencing Lagos's identity. Using fiberglass makes sense for durability outdoors. These public pieces show he can think big, connect art to place.
His artist statement kind of sums up his philosophy, doesn't it? He calls his work a journey through time, texture, and tradition.
Yeah, rooted in Nigeria but expressed in contemporary ways. He mentions liking the feel of old textiles, found objects.
Tactile quality.
Exactly, and that dialogue he talks about between tradition and innovation. You see it in the contrast between simple compositions and those raw textures.
And the core themes he brings up: identity, resilience, community, cultural continuity.
They really are the threads running through everything, aren't they? The Durbar paintings, the fish sculptures, the mentorship. It all ties back to exploring Nigerian identity today.
He also specifically mentions the Faces and Phases initiative again in his statement, underscoring that commitment to mentorship.
It's clearly central to his vision.
And we noted he's now based in Houston.
Yeah.
That feels like a significant shift.
It does. Moving to a completely different cultural context. Houston, Texas. It opens up new avenues, potentially new influences, new dialogues.
How might that change his work going forward?
Well, we actually have some insight into that already. Recent projects from 2025 in Houston.
Oh, yeah. What are they?
3 mural projects, actually. All collaborations with another artist, Bimbo Adenugba, and curated by Street Art Mankind.
Murals in Houston. That's fascinating.
Yeah, one called The Protest, another Faces in the Crowd, both pretty large at a Harris County building, and a third honoring the artist John T. Biggers at a park.
Wow. So he's taking his style, his sensibility, and applying it in this new American context.
Exactly. And working with Street Art Mankind, an organization often focused on social messages through public art. It suggests these murals are engaging directly with the Houston community. It shows his vision is adaptable, still evolving.
It's really exciting to see. For listeners who want to see this work for themselves, we do have his contact info.
Right. His website is brush.bio Odunfa.
And his Instagram handle.
It's at Ade Odunfart. Adeodunfart.
Okay, great. And there's even a phone number listed if people want to reach out directly.
Yeah, +1 713 539 2531. Having that direct access is pretty cool. Helps bridge that gap.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up.
Yeah.
Ade Odunfa, clearly a major force. Contemporary Nigerian art, public art. His style is unique. That blend of tradition and modern expression really stands out.
Absolutely. And beyond the art itself, there's that strong commitment to mentorship, to community. Plus, those big public pieces have undeniably shaped the visual landscape, certainly in Lagos.
And now potentially starting to in Houston, too.
What strikes me is his range, moving from intimate paintings to these huge installations, but always with that consistent core vision, rooted in heritage, but looking forward.
His work really makes you think about that interplay,
Yeah.
tradition, modernity in our global world. So here's something to chew on after listening. How does an artist's cultural DNA, their roots, keep evolving when they move to a totally new place? We see it happening with Odunfa in Houston. What kinds of new conversations, new viewpoints can come out of that kind of cross-cultural exchange?
It's a great question, and the best way to explore it further is to look at the art itself.
For sure. Check out his website, his Instagram. Seeing the work visually will give you a much deeper sense of his impact. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.